The Halo universe is filled with wonder, mystery, and fascinating discoveries around every corner. With so much to explore, four friends decided it was about time that they boot up their consoles and discuss this universe that has grabbed their attention since childhood. JumperScape Audio kindly welcomes you to join them in the library.
Hello everyone, welcome back to The Library, the show that is hosted by mostly informal people. Now we have to bring in someone that is really formal to cover the difference. So, in case you didn't look at the title completely there, we are joined by our special guest, Installation00, we can definitely say very well-versed Halo lore YouTuber.
A true historian.
I like to think so.
A true historian of the Halo universe.
Yes. Because here's the thing, that could be
cool history teacher.
That could be cool history. There could be something in the future though, because like there are some people out here that are what are they? They get paid to be Lord of the Rings historians. So
this is true.
So there you go. This is the path. So today we wanted to bring you on, good sir, because because we have lore concerns.
Yes.
So Gold versus Silver, the Halo TV show. We're at a conundrum here because we've talked for so many weeks about the Halo lore, and we've talked very much on the after show about how much lore means to us and how much Halo in general is in kind of a bad state, which even you, I think it seems to have reached the breaking point on that one, because
Absolutely.
You had that rant video, and which I did watch that, and I mean, to be honest, I did laugh kind of hard when you were just like, I can't do this.
I just honestly, in writing that video, it's the realization that in the 2-minute introduction to that video, I had actually covered everything that we knew about the Zalanin, about the Endless, and then it's sitting back and thinking, I'm supposed to make a lore video out of this, and I've literally just summarized everything we know, and it just spiraled from there. I left the mic recorder and just said, nah, I can't do this. And then, the rant happened. So
that was completely unplanned. You were doing the original video that was legit.
Yeah, that was, I just decided to upload it as it was. And like I say, it's completely ad-lib. So I just reamed it off. And
we had something very similar happen on one of the first, I think it might have been the first episode.
It was the very first one.
We were talking about the skimmers in Halo Infinite. And we were like, we were trying to get into like what we know about them. And it just went into like a full-blown 40-minute rant about the state of Halo. Was it during the episode? No, it was the after show, correct?
It was the after show.
Okay. But yeah, no, something very similar. Just like we said, we were talking about enemies and Infinite and just the game in itself. And we got to skimmers, and for whatever reason, the skimmers translated into us just completely unloading the clip about how we feel about the current state of Halo. So definitely relate to that.
It started with the fact that we couldn't remember what the name was.
Right, yeah, what
was that flying enemy?
Yeah.
Well, now it's like kind of an inside joke that anytime someone mentions skimmers, we have to like just quickly change the subject because we're scared that's going to happen again.
Because we'll go down a rabbit hole and we won't come back out for the whole episode.
That's the thing, is if they gave us more than what they did with Halo Infinite's campaign, there would be more to talk about. But because we got so little, it's understandable people inevitably realize that there's that much of a lack of narrative and new lore that it's worth talking about why that happened after a 6-year development cycle.
Absolutely.
It's like, are you and $500 million. Let's just make sure we make a point of that. And
like, how well thought out was it?
It's. I mean, like I said, I was talking to Hidden Xperia today, and he messaged me first because he said he saw the video as well, and I echoed his sentiments apparently by all accounts, and he said literally on the January following the launch of Halo Infinite, he realized that he'd covered all of the new lore from Halo Infinite.
Oh my gosh.
1 month later, 1 month after launch, and he'd covered all the lore that he wanted to cover that was new about Halo Infinite.
That's not what you want, man.
And I mean, that's why I still cover stuff that, lore that came out 20 odd years ago, because that's where the actual lore is. There's nothing new. But yeah.
And it's annoying because it's as if you had all this time and you have all this space. You have the most mysterious and wondrous Halo that currently exists. One of the the only surviving 30,000 kilometer ring, the original. So like, why can't we know more? Like, I think the best point that you had, because I've noticed it too, it was slowly clicking. Where are the ancient human structures? Because they were there.
Exactly. Ancient humanity was stored on that ring for nearly 1,000 years. And they had cities. They had built cities while they were there. Like I mean, not quite like we have cities. You know, it's more like because we had been devolved by that point, so they were more like hunter-gatherer cities. But still, huge sprawling cities. Where were they?
Yeah, and it's clear that we see ruins because even, let's say, the babysitter, the Halo Legends episode, that those structures are human. They're ancient humans. So it's like they clearly did have culture that they left behind that we could see today.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the fact that they just didn't? You know, it's not the point. The point of the episode. We can't.
we're doing it again. We're going down a rabbit hole. We're doing it again. Well, I mean, this somewhat ties in because we're talking about like the show that ties in with lore, and we're talking about lore with within Infinite and Zeta Halo. So I mean,
how touchy the lore is.
We can transition. We're not going too off topic, but we're getting in that red zone where we might go down a rabbit hole.
Although I will point out as a final statement, one of the crowning jewel jokes about we had pronounced it before as Zaylin, but I don't know if I ever had it right. I'm gonna go with yours because you probably get it better. But so we made a joke though that it was just a name for a medication that they came up with and they threw it on an alien race because it just sounds like that.
It does, yeah.
Because we started making jokes.
Have you got any Prozac? No, sorry, we've run out. We've got some Xalanin.
Exactly. I'm glad you. Okay.
I'll take so 3 of those.
I feel validated. I feel so validated now.
It's like, oh shit! Here comes the Covenant warlord, Pepto Bismol.
That's funny. Goodness.
It's painful, but it's funny. It's so funny because we can only laugh right now. It's the really painful part.
And it doesn't help that the main villain sounds like a sneeze, so.
That's true. Okay, real quick. I actually need to get one last thing from you before we move on to the real topic, and that's we realized we had a really big problem with Escharum because he really came out of nowhere and was never mentioned in Atriox's original backstory. But he's supposed to be the guy who trained Atriox and was his mentor, as if, well, first of all, ripping off Destiny 2's story, but second of all, like, where's he supposed to come from? Is there anything about that tells us no? Okay, great. You're shaking your head. That's great.
No,
I'm happy about that.
That's again something that hugely bothered me is that at the start of Atriox's introduction in Halo Wars, even for people who didn't play Halo Wars, even if you just watch the cutscenes, Atriox's introduction is absolutely boss. Mm-hmm. Like, he comes across as such a formidable character, but also such a charismatic character that he can bring all those races together. And bearing in mind, there are humans within the Banished as well, so he doesn't really discriminate per se. And then Halo Infinite kicks off, and the first big badass that you see is Atriox completely bodying the Chief. Bearing in mind that he's done that with 3 Spartans before, and then he does it with these Spartan, and then he just evaporates for the whole freaking campaign, and it's replaced by some other dude who's about 80 years his senior and has got severe asthma. And why? You had Atriox, you had the war chieftain, and you went for a guy who's literally on his deathbed. Why?
Yeah, he felt more or less like a watered down version of Atriox, if you can even give him that.
I would have been totally down with.
We had to tell our story.
I would have been completely down with making the big bad if we weren't going to get Atriox. I probably would have taken. Why am I forgetting his name? He's the coolest character in the entirety of the Banished in that game. The elite with the cybernetic arm. Mr. Camo guy that head slams a brute.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Oh my god.
Jaeger.
Oh my god.
And this game is breaking us.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Jaeger
and Domnite.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh man. Thank you, James, for the clutch.
Embarrassing.
Always count on me for
wow. We all drew a blank. Every single one of us.
Oh
Yikes.
man. Okay. So speaking of drawing a blank on remembering things, the
I
Halo
literally
TV
have
show.
a figure of him off to my left.
TV show.
Yes.
Wait, what'd you say, James?
I literally have a figure of him off to my left right now.
Oh, that's how you know it's bad. Okay, so yes, the problems that are brought up in the TV show. First of all, so every time that we have a guest on the show, and this counts for mostly the after show because we get guests on the after show more than we get on the actual show. I wanted to do a 2-layer thing. So first of all, I wanted to know your background with Halo, how you got started, because I don't think that you started with Installation00, if I was reading it right. And then where you are with the TV show, is it something more like I accept it because it's a different timeline, I accept it because it's close enough, or is it I genuinely appreciate what is presented as a counter to what is already there?
Okay, so my origin for Halo, as far as things, I was there at the launch of the entire franchise. I was one of those here in the UK. I was one of the 3 million that bought the console and game at launch, because I remember playing the demo in a game shop in my local town, and yeah, that's where my origin of Halo started. And I like many of us, I played the campaign, played the multiplayer. Halo 2 came out, I played that all the way through. I was at the midnight launch for that. Halo 3 midnight launch again, ODST midnight launch again, Reach midnight launch again. Yeah, so I was there for all of it. And kind of the creating the YouTube channel was kind of an accident, to be quite honest, because I went to college, did electronic and computer engineering, and then I went to university and did computer science and material science. And while I was studying those subjects, I was realizing while I was studying them, a lot of this technology is somewhat applicable to Halo, to Mjolnir specifically. So I started like jotting notes and stuff down about what certain technologies could work for Mjolnir and what could make it happen. And it eventually got to a point where I had so much information written down where I thought, okay, so this is actually becoming difficult to track now. So what can I do to sort of sort this out for me so I can reference back to it? And I thought, I know, I'll script it and then I'll record my voice, and then whenever I want to refer back to it, I've got my voice to refer to. So I narrated it because again I'd used that a lot when I was studying. And then I thought, well, actually, there's a lot of cutscenes out there and a lot of like footage from games and stuff like that I could put with it that helps, like, visually help what I'm talking about in this particular part of the narration. So I edited it together with some video, and then I thought, well, a little bit of music with it as well, just to spice it up a little bit. And then I thought, well, this was in the era when like hard drives could crash very easily and you lose all your data.
Yeah, for real.
So I thought, okay, I don't want to lose this. This is quite a big feat. I know what I'll do. I'll upload it to YouTube and just leave it there. And it won't do a lot. And I actually uploaded it to a completely different channel to start with. So I uploaded technically the most detailed breakdown for the Mark 6 Mjolnir platform to a completely different channel, and it got 40,000 views. And I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. And then people were asking, oh, can you do it for other suits? Can you do it for the Mark 5? Can you do it with the Mark 4? And I thought, okay, well, sod it, I've started it. Yeah, why not? So then I wrote the scripts for the Mark 4 and the Mark 5, and it was at that point where I thought I need to actually set up a proper channel for this because people are starting to request it. That's when Installation00 came into existence, and then I transferred the videos over to the new channel, and it just perpetuated from there until my collaboration with Eckhart's Ladder, when it exploded. So I mean, I had 700. I even remember to this day, I had 767 subscribers on the day that our collaboration released. And I mean, he was good enough to come to me. He's a pretty huge YouTuber, and he comes to me and he says, "Hey, I've been watching your content for quite a long time." And I was like, well, that's a freaking compliment in and of itself. And then he was like, let's do a collaboration. I want to do a breakdown of, I think he did a breakdown of the Valiant class heavy cruiser.
Yeah.
And he was like, how about you do a breakdown of a ship as well? I'll post your video on my channel, you post my video on yours, and we'll collaborate and we'll go live at the same time. I was like, okay, that's fine. So I wrote a script for the most detailed breakdown of the Pillar of Autumn, which was like, he gave me like a 10-minute breakdown of the Valiant class. I gave him a nearly 40-minute breakdown of the Pillar of Autumn. I was fully expecting him to come to me and go, come on, man, I can't upload this to my channel. What are you doing? But he did. He just did it. He uploaded it, and then it went live, and overnight I went from 767 subscribers to 14,000.
Oh my god!
Wow.
And
jeez,
it was monetized overnight, and it's just grown perpetually since then.
So
that's my origin for Halo.
What year was this when you started?
So the first videos I uploaded to a completely separate channel was probably in 2014, maybe 2015.
So I think there's an argument to be made that you invented the video essay format. That's probably not true.
Fair enough. That's a nice badge to wear, yeah.
It's early enough, yeah.
So, yeah, I think 2014, 2015 is when I uploaded to a complete separate channel. Then the Installation00 came into an existence in 2018, I think. Mm. And then, like I say, it's just gone from there.
I mean, it's no surprise that you grew as quickly as you did, though, because I was okay. So here's the thing, right? My position on this show, my place in Halo is I'm the guy who understands stuff, right? Like completely. Like my ratio from playing campaign to playing multiplayer on the games is not even close. I'm trying to build up a book collection. You can't see the bookcase, but it's over there, and it's mostly, it's like 90% Halo books. So like it's my thing. And then I watch your content, and what I was originally aiming for was trying to see, it was like a challenge to myself to be like, okay, how much don't I know? I stopped after the first video. Because I'm out here like, I'm talking about like the origin of the Spartan program and the origin of the Spartan armor, and you're out here explaining to me the molecular structure of the gel layer. And I'm like, what do you mean?
It's pretty heavy material science, to be fair. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like understanding like the exact alloy of the titanium of Master Chief's suit is, I mean, I had to find some really obscure lore, and then I had to do a little bit of like technical extrapolation based on my qualifications to figure out exactly what we were dealing with. But it's pretty heavy duty.
I mean, good job. You did a good job with it. Because I didn't know that you had that sort of actual like educated background on it. I had assumed it though, because I was like, there's no way that just an uneducated Halo fan is going to be able to extrapolate that much scientific data off of just reading the novel.
Yeah. Like it's no secret as well. Like I think due to the intrinsic extraneous detail that I put into those most detailed breakdowns, I have a disproportionately large following of engineers, scientists, a lot of autistic people as well. That's not surprising, to be fair, for the detail orientated people. So yeah, it's I because it's so heavy in the science, I was kind of expecting it to have a niche, like a loyal niche, but never to really explode like it did. But that's kind of encouraging for me, and that gave me this sort of motivation to tweak the content a little bit and make it so I can kind of deliver that really high level detail and scientific data, but in a consumable kind of way, to make it that so people can become that much more well versed in the lore and the reality, so to speak, of the foundational bones of Halo. So yeah,
it's certain. Quick question: you said you did the Pillar of Autumn, yes? The Warthog run. How and why?
He's mentioned that one before a couple times now.
I've done a few videos on that. Yeah. So the annoying thing is the Warthog run actually would make sense if the Pillar of Autumn was scaled correctly, because it's not. So for example, like there's the very end cutscene you see. In Halo C, you see the longsword fly out of the hangar bay of the Pillar of Autumn. But when you actually take the size of the longsword, the wingspan of the longsword, it doesn't fit in the hangar bay. It's too big, or rather, the Pillar of Autumn's too small. If you scale the Pillar of Autumn up quite dramatically, so you're using the longsword as a measuring stick for how big the Autumn should be. If you do that, then although you have to reorientate the Warthog run then does fit, and even that huge that bridge that connects the front and back of the ship that makes no freaking sense.
Yeah, where did that
actually finally has a bit of sense to it. I've got a model here somewhere.
Oh boy.
This is like really mind blowing to me. I'm sorry. This is like super mind blowing to me.
Is that 3D printed?
Yeah, it's 3D printed. I've got a little plinth that you put. It's got LED lights in it. I'm going to sell these on my web store.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Man, I'm already watching your store. Now I'm watching it closer.
So right here between hull section 2 and hull section 3, there's quite a large valley between like key parts of the ship. If you scale it up to the percentage that you need to get the longsword to fit inside the hangar bay, that valley fits that bridge perfectly.
Wow.
Okay.
That's cool.
Oh man, I did not expect to get hard edumacation right in like the first 25 minutes of the episode. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so cool. I mean, first of all, I think one of the reasons why you've now started to expand outside of the original niche audience that you've talked about, I think most certainly it's starting to be that because 343, it appears that I'm saying it appears because I don't completely think that we should believe everything that we've heard about what they say and what they think. But what we've seen is that Halo veterans are not really, they're not important anymore. At least it certainly doesn't seem like it.
Yeah.
So your audience is now seeming like it's not just this niche audience. Now you're just pulling in straight up Halo veterans who want to feel as though Halo is still expanding, even though it hasn't moved in years.
Yeah. And that's actually quite a heavy burden to shoulder. Because I mean, it then feels like I'm myself and other content creators are still doing sort of decent Halo content. We're almost then carrying the burden of expanding the franchise when that should be on the franchise owner. That should be on 343 Industries, and yet that's not happening. So it's fallen upon us, and it's like that's not how things should be. But
the fans and content creators are really carrying the universe right now.
Hard.
I mean, the amount of mods I've seen, like the fan games that have been produced, basically in the absence of any decent releases from 343 Industries, it shows that the community is filled to the brim with people who are passionate, capable, and willing to produce better Halo content than the studio that makes the game itself. That surely then calls into question how that studio is being run if the fans are doing a better job. But
hey there, Halo fans. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with our friends right after these messages.
We've talked about it before, just briefly, on the idea that, at least I presented it before because it's been on my mind before, that it seems to me that the eventuality will be that Halo will be at such a point that the fans actually do take over the franchise. Like 343 gets an influx of job applications or something, and suddenly everybody starts taking over, and the people who actually care take over on everything. And we stop with the conglomeration that 343 was formed around, this amalgamation of companies that were just handing over employees to make Halo real. It's a sad sort of thing. But with that, with your stances and your knowledge of Halo lore and what people can come to expect from you, do you think that people were potentially surprised by your thoughts and views on the TV show?
Yeah. I think so. I think that's beyond question. I think because of my library of content and my views and opinions and my passion, so to speak, for Halo, for me to come out and basically be in majoritively support of the TV show, I think definitely threw people through a loop. And I mean, I'm perfectly willing and able to sit here and say season 1 has some problems, some big problems. It does. There's no two ways about it. You don't go through a 10-year development cycle, numerous rewrites of scripts and this, that, and the other, 2 different showrunner management companies. You don't go through all of that process without there being a knock-on effect, a negative knock-on effect to the finished product. That just happens. So the TV show has some severe issues. It does, but for me, the bones of the show, I think the core of it, there's something there that is worth exploring and extrapolating and handling better. But there's definitely something there that's worth looking at. And the big thing that I'm reasoning as to why that is goes back to actually almost a singular narrative point. So in the book The Fall of Reach, when the Spartan children were kidnapped, Dr. Halsey and her AI Deja had a conversation, and Deja suggested selective amnesia for the children to partially wipe their memory of their childhood, alongside indoctrination and basically lying to the children that their home was decimated by a disease or the Covenant attacked, or just basically lying to the children. And I think there was even suggestion of like emotional dysregulation or emotional control, so to speak. Deja suggested all this to Dr. Halsey, and on all counts, Dr. Halsey said, "No, we're not doing that, because if ever the Spartans grow up and then realise that we lied to them, or realise that we tried to control them, or anything like that, they'll turn on us. And because of how powerful the Spartans are going to be, that's an untenable solution." That happened in The Fall of Reach. In the TV show, the exact opposite happens. It's almost like a what-if kind of scenario, where rather than Halsey saying, "No, we're not doing this because if we lie to them, they'll turn against us," Halsey did the complete opposite. She chose to implant a pellet into their bodies, which numbs them and emotionally controls them. And she lied to all of the Spartans for their entire lives, saying that their home was destroyed by a disease or a plague or whatever the case may be. So, and even the selective amnesia, even that's an aspect. She quote unquote locked away memories so that the Spartans wouldn't relive their traumatic kidnapping. But in so doing, you seeded the exact eventuality that you were trying to avoid in The Fall of Reach. And then you get Master Chief, who has, for his entire life, had his feelings numbed, his emotions numbed, to the point, bearing in mind there's a scene in the TV show where he can't even taste food. He can't taste flavours. So his entire life has been spent emotionally numbed and stunted. And he's been lied to about where he came from, his parents, his home, and this, that, and the other. And then he suddenly realizes, due to a contact with a foreigner artifact and because of his status as a reclaimer, he suddenly has feelings surged into his system, and memories of his childhood, of his kidnap, surge to the forefront. Both of which then see the eventuality where he looks at Halsey and the UNSC and the Office of Naval Intelligence and looks at them and goes, "Well, you've been lying to me," and he doesn't know how to deal with that because he's emotionally stunted, because he hasn't been able to feel any of those emotions for all of this time. And yes, there are some really cringy moments where Chief is overexpressive, much more than he should be.
Go disappear.
But yeah, exactly. But if a person had been numbed of all emotions for all of their life and then suddenly were feeling emotions for the first time, of course you don't know how to hormonally regulate your emotions and temper that. Because, the same happens with children. When children are developing and their emotions are coming in, same things happens with teenagers when they go through puberty, because you've got new hormones, new emotions. You don't know quite how to control them. So that's kind of understandable. So that's where a lot of my support of some of the deep narrative and some of the bones of the TV show comes from. That's where the core of my support comes from. But it doesn't change the fact that there are glaring issues that need fixing.
I mean, that all makes sense. That's actually like a really solid way to look. I think there's a big problem. Not really a problem. I think it's completely understandable why people would look at it. And even me, it's like I was mad.
It's those points they're there, but they're not telegraphed enough, I think. And so it's very easy because you're looking at everything else and thinking, well, who's Quan? What's her point? Why is she here?
Yeah.
Why is this woman with the Covenant? Why is this happening? So you're caught up with that. It's very easy to overlook these underpronounced moments that kind of not justify things, but that explain why certain things are happening. Yeah. So it's completely understandable why people just look at it and go,
I think a lot of it is just like you guys were saying earlier. It's more or less like we're not getting the universe, like you guys said, isn't expanding. And I think people were looking at the show, oh, this might be something that gives us a little bit more context as to why something's happening. Like Forward Unto Dawn was released before Halo 4 and gave us a little bit of backstory about Lasky and stuff along those lines. And I think a lot of people were kind of somewhat, me included, was expecting something of the same for the Halo TV show. Like, there's a whole grace period between Halo 5 and Infinite, and like, I get it's a reboot, but like, it could have been something that added to the lore about what happened in that time frame, what happened with the Banished, what's going on with Atriox, what happened with Cortana. I think there was just a lot of things that they didn't touch on that a lot of the fans legitimately wanted to see. So again, it's not a bad written show, but it's just, like you said, it has its issues, and I think it's just missing what people actually wanted to see inside of the show.
Right, but on that note, its audience was not just Halo fans. It was trying to make something that could stand on its own. So if you placed a TV show between Halo 5 and Infinite, a lot of people would be very confused if they don't know anything about Halo, which was, whether we like it or not, that was the audience.
Yeah, the only way you could really make a TV show that it really seems like the only way you could make a TV show that appeases both audiences, you go one of two routes. You go The Last of Us and you just start retelling the game, but it's a TV show now, and you hire the Mandalorian to play Master Chief, and then or you go the route of the TV show that it actually took. You make a whole new just timeline and see if it works. And well, to some degree, it was coherent somewhat. Definitely some questions though, and I'm gonna have them because here's the thing. Okay, Zero, I have trapped you here today because I have some glaring questions, and I need to know if I'm just insane or if there are legitimate holes here that I have not caught. All right.
Okay.
So, I listen. I need to know: is Quan just playing the role of 343 Guilty Spark? Because she's trying to get, isn't she the reason that he's going to get to the ring? She has control over the portal because of those weird tribal people.
Yeah. So, yeah. So the argument is, this is something that 343 changed with the law that perhaps shouldn't have been changed from Bungie era, but it's nevertheless it's been done, and what that is the status of reclaimer. At one point, every human alive was a reclaimer because Forerunner technology was, well, Foreigners themselves were humans. They were ancient. That's what Bungie intended to do. It was heavily implied. It was never explicitly stated, but it was heavily implied, which meant that then us, being their children, their ancestors, would inherit everything they left behind. Makes sense. 343 scaled that back and made it so that, one, they separated foreigners and humans, and two, they made it so only a small population, only a small number of human beings are reclaimers, and it's specifically the group of humans that the librarian watched over on, was it on Zeta? No, it was her colony of humans on Earth, her special group. They had the gene songs implanted into them that made them reclaimers, and all of the rest of humanity are not reclaimers. So Chief has got the gene song for being a reclaimer. McKee has the gene song for being a reclaimer, and Quan has, to a lesser degree, a gene song to be something of a reclaimer, but maybe something a little bit different, like I don't know, portal keeper or whatever. I don't know what they're going to call it. So yeah, in a very broad sense, yeah, Quan's role is basically 343 Guilty Spark, but not a monitor and not on Halo.
Just
so
as a guiding,
she's technically Chuckus, like
technically,
the ancient human before Chuckus became 343. That's technically what role she's occupying,
right?
But
okay,
yeah, that's in a broad sense.
Gotta say, it's really nice to chat with somebody who's read those novels. Not to dog on you guys, I'm just saying.
I'll get there eventually.
Read them, dude. They're so good. You can read them anytime. They're so far before.
But anyway, I'm going through.
Okay. So another one for you. Another fastball. Might be a curveball.
Go on.
Maybe one of those other kind of what's the pitch that you can throw? Is that the one that like goes towards you and then it just plummets in Wii Sports?
Yeah.
Okay, then yes, that.
You're welcome.
Why did you know that?
I played baseball a little bit.
Okay. So, there is no way, like I'm determined on this, there is no way, not even a chance, that Oni would have let a Spartan run. Like, you're letting a Spartan, like, it makes sense that they're adults, maybe. But at that point, when they were teenagers, would they have even gotten close? Like, first of all, he wasn't wearing a helmet, just, one, whatever. But, like, I don't know. It's like, would he have been able to even do that? Because, yes, Spartans are trained to be able to be super stealthy and infiltrators, first and foremost, not warriors. They were trained to be, assassins, basically. But it doesn't click that it would be something, especially with the way that this Oni operates. They're not as terrifying in their human atrocities as the original lore, but
yeah, I thought Oni in the TV show were a little bit tame. Yeah, but so are you talking specifically about John running, or are you talking about Soren?
So not specifically. Oh, did we lose him?
I think we lost him for a second.
Oh no.
I'm still
okay,
there he is. There he is.
Okay. You froze for a second.
Are we talking about Chief or Soren?
We're talking about Soren.
Because
Chief was a good boy and stayed.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as Soren's an interesting case. Obviously, in the TV show, the suggestion is he was given 5 minutes head start, but he was shot down and then had to basically survive in the Reach wilderness, which is no mean feat in and of itself, on, as he puts it, bark and beans, for an extended period until he could get to such a position to be able to get off world and go to the rubble,
which was really cool to see, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Reading about it in the Cole Protocol was like, wow, I wonder what that looked like. When I saw it in the TV show, I was like, what?
It was awesome. I was super. I was hyped.
They did the rubble. Just so beautiful to see. Yeah, asteroids just strung together by little vines of gold. Oh, it's just lovely. Yeah, Soren's an interesting case, but he was always heralded as being extraordinarily good at hiding away. I think even in the mainline lore, when they attempted to acquire him for the Spartan program, he slipped by the Oni operatives and did basically go to ground for extended periods of time to stay away from the Oni agents. So that's semi on character for him, but. Okay. And I'm assuming, based on the fact that later on, when he gets, when we see him as a grown adult, he's not wearing full Mjolnir anymore. He's wearing the bodysuit and the chest plate, which I would assume that means he's stripped off most of his armor, and obviously the armor can be as we discovered in the TV show, can be somewhat remote controlled by Oni if they so wish. And I assume could probably be tracked as well, because he turned on a homing beacon as well at some point in the TV show to be found by the other members of Silver Team. So I assume at some point while he was in the Reach Wilderness, he stripped his armor off, which in and of itself is technically not lore accurate, because like Mjolnir has never been user serviceable.
No, you always needed somebody.
You
else
needed
to take
technicians to help you take it off. Yeah. So I don't know how he did that, but yeah, the hiding away and spending prolonged periods of time hiding away from Oni agents or from people in general, that's relatively on character for Soren. And I suppose if he stripped his equipment off while he was still on Reach and then stowed away on a ship and found his way to the rubble that way, I suppose it's a slim possibility that he would get off of world and actually get away from Oni and be able to stay away from Oni. Yeah, but it is very long odds. Right. I mean, the only other example I know of someone quote unquote staying away from the UNSC as a Spartan was Randall, and he was just he was left on a colony because they thought him dead. So yeah.
Who were the Spartans? I'm getting stuff mixed up in my head. There were 2 Spartans who tried escaping during their training several times.
Some members of Grey Team. That was Adriana, Jai, and there were 3 that were quote unquote problem individuals.
Yes,
that was Adriana, Jai, and shit. What's the third one's name?
I'm on it. Hold on.
Yeah, 3 members of Grey Team. Yeah. But they were given in order to keep Michael. That was it. In order to somewhat temper that they realized, I think, due to their psychological profiles, that they weren't responding very well to managerial oversight. So they decided the best thing they could do for Grey Team is give them Mjolnir, send them deep undercover for extended periods of time with no oversight, with just what they can sort of club together amongst themselves, and let them perform hit and run tactics and strike tasks against the insurgents and against the Covenant deep behind enemy lines, and just leave them for extended periods of time just to do what they want to do. And they thrived on it. They did really well.
Yeah. The reason I bring them up is because his question was, would a Spartan be able to run from Oni and get away? I remember they tried to escape several times, and they were unable to sometimes, and then they were able to get out of like the main facility, but nowhere near off planet.
So I would think that the armor is like tracked to some degree.
I would imagine so.
I would think that's part of it.
It's one of the most expensive pieces of military equipment in the UNSC. You would hope they've at least got a, technically they all have IFF transponders. So that's probably
those little, they're in their neck, right? That little chip.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, I doubted his abilities to escape. So you covered that part. So that I can at least trust that he would have the ability. But I don't think he would have survived very long in that environment. Because my thinking is like, Oni, they really love their kill teams. Like their Black Ops in Section 3 is violent.
I think we've also established that TV show Oni is pretty soft. Comparatively,
like we said, it was tame.
Yeah, I mean the actress that plays Parangoski, I think is a relatively well picked actress. She's I've seen her in quite a few things. She's very good, but and she does get across the relatively unassuming but powerful kind of Synconi, head of Office of Naval Intelligence. She can exude that when she needs to, but I don't think Oni isn't the reputation of Oni in the TV show isn't supporting her for that role. If there was more of a fleshed out narrative of just how dark and dangerous Oni can be, that would then support Margaret in a much more palpable way and make her more of a formidable character. So I don't think it's through lack of the actresses capability to portray that. I think it's the lack of the narrative supporting her.
That makes sense. Yeah, because she wasn't like you said, she wasn't bad, but it definitely did seem like she was getting pushed around too easily by Halsey. And
I really didn't like that when they had the meeting of the I don't know high command meeting.
I guess it's high. It sounds like it's high comm. Yeah.
And she basically just like strong-armed Parangoski into accepting the Cortana program, and Parangoski was just like, a small chance that it might be applicable. It's like, why, Margaret? It's like, you would not roll over and show your belly like that in normal. You would have made her disappear. You would have made her shoot herself in her own face and make it appear like an accident. Before you would have rolled over and showed your belly.
You're not going to believe this. Suicide from 2 gunshots to the back of the head.
Yeah.
I can't believe Halsey would do this.
I would like to point out that I only saw the first episode of the Halo show.
There's so much more for you to be disappointed with, my friend.
Exactly.
There's a lot that you can appreciate. The fight scenes are great. I can say that much. That's my favorite part.
Seeing some of the Spartan physicality was really quite nice.
High Charity was beautiful.
There's a small possibility I might finish it at some point, but especially for the time that it came out, I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I had just come off of being extremely disappointed in Star Wars lore, not just because of Disney taking over and changing stuff, but because I went back to old stuff that were things that were written from just the original trilogy, and just it was a mess. And so I'm someone who appreciates original intent a lot when it comes to content and art and stuff like that. So Halo, I very much like Halo. It's not up there for me with lore like it is with Star Wars, but I have enough, especially because of Austin, like of just understanding and knowledge of what Halo was supposed to be, what it could have been, and having played the games enough to have at least a basic understanding of what Halo was. And then coming from the disappointment of Star Wars, jumping into the Halo show, and I'm like, why is this being changed too? Like, why is this necessary? Why are old fans being excluded, new fans in a way being excluded from the appreciation of what Halo was supposed to be and could have been? Like, so I couldn't bring myself to stick with that.
The question that I remember hearing a lot of people ask before was, in your effort to please everyone, who are you pleasing? Because It doesn't seem like the TV show pleased anybody. It's just, and on that point though, I had one more major thing that I wanted to address, mostly because we're coming down to the wire here. So which exposition scene made less sense? Captain Keyes being prisoner in Combat Evolved, or random guy in a jail cell in the rubble who told Chief all about the rings and the Covenant's intent?
I had really high hopes for when I heard the name, when I heard Rhett, I thought, oh, we're going to see a jackal.
Mm-hmm.
Because Rhett in the mainline lore is a jackal on the rubble and is kind of leads the jackal. Because for some reason, that's what again another reason I really like the Cole Protocol is that it demonstrates that the jackals are a little turncoaty, but they're
so interesting.
But because they're pirates at heart, they were willing to cooperate with, by definition, rebels of humanity, and kind of coexist, which was fascinating to read through. And Rhett was right up there. He was a high-ranking Kigyar on the rubble. So when I heard Rhett, I thought, we're going to get to see a jackal. And how he said, like when they were going through the prison area, I thought, okay, so it's a jackal. So maybe Rhett's not quite as friendly towards humans as perhaps he seemed to be. I mean, he was tolerant of humans in the Cole Protocol, but maybe he's a little bit more quote unquote feral, perhaps, or a little bit more aggressive, and they have to keep him chained up or isolated in some way. And then it was just a dude who had been kidnapped by the Covenant, but then released. Covenant
because they do that.
They don't do that. Covenant, if they do, one, generally speaking, they don't take prisoners, and on the few occasions that they do take prisoners, they kill them. And
It's
then it
more
was just,
like,
yeah,
let's
it was,
see how
it
long
was,
humans can last in deep space with no suit.
and, like, I mean, again, in a way, Rhett in the TV show sort of makes sense. So the fact that he's a bit schizo, a bit psychotic, kind of makes sense, because if you think about it, at this point, humanity had never encountered an alien species, let alone a conglomerate of alien species that all want to wipe humanity off the face of the universe. So we know intrinsically that if humanity was suddenly visited right now by an extraordinarily advanced alien civilization, the vast majority of humanity would absolutely lose their minds. There would be mass panic. But the idea then that humanity were in the TV show where we encountered the Covenant, and they kidnapped Rhett and experimented on him and tortured him and to try to get him to reproduce the effects of a reclaimer when he isn't one. The fact that how he got away, I'd like to know that, because there's no explanation as to how he got away. But whatever this case may be, he did get away, and as a consequence, he is a bit messed up because of his time tortured, experimented on, and his close encounter with aliens that he knows nothing about. So his psychosis and is the way he presents makes a little bit of sense within the context. But why couldn't it just have been a Kigyar?
How does he understand them? They don't speak English.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. That might have been it. They might have said, we'll make it a Kigyar. Yeah, but they don't understand the Covenant language at this stage. Oh, yeah, you're right. We'll just make him a dude. It's like,
and apparently the dude understands the Covenant language, right? Like,
okay, fine.
that's the stuff that's, you know what? Even though it doesn't make any sense, the comedy evolved scene probably does make more sense. Even though,
it doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? I mean,
I could see the pain in all your voices while you guys were talking about this.
The fact that Captain Keyes, I heard the guards talking. They call it Halo. Yeah, the Halo was written on the board of the Pillar of Autumn when they first arrived.
Everybody knew, apparently. And it's like, why are the guards talking about it? And also, why are the guards talking about it?
It's some kind of weapon.
It's like, sure, I guess. Great misinterpretation, because they're not supposed to think it's a weapon.
Good lord.
But there was one other thing I had thought of just real quick. Something that Zero had said about the plot line that interested him, the narrative that interested him about the show, was that you have the Spartans that have been lied to. And to an extent, I feel like we already have that story within Naomi in the Kilo 5 trilogy. Because I'd say for the majority, the Spartans had their history pretty upfront to them. It was sort of shown that their memories weren't kept from them, but they were sort of repressed from all the stuff that they went through.
They were distracted, basically, yeah.
Right. But Naomi ended up being lied to in the way that Halsey made her think that her parents were fine with what had happened to her. That basically she was told, your dad knows you're here and he's not going to come get you because he knows you have to become a Spartan. And that becomes an issue later in the book a little bit.
That's a case in point as to why lying to a Spartan is a bad idea. I mean, they're extraordinarily powerful military assets. I mean, when you actually look at what the Spartans can do on paper, they're terrifying. especially if you consider that they were built to go up against human rebellion. That is absolutely and utterly overkill to the nth degree. I mean, once you put a Spartan in their armor, they can react almost instantly. They can output ridiculous levels of speed. They can be almost silent, and they can kill practically anything that quickly. And yeah, it's they're legitimately terrifying. So you don't lie to them. You don't mess around with them, because you're asking for bad news. You're asking for the Spartans to think, well, I don't need you. I'm powerful enough on my own, you know. And I think again, it was the whole idea of, it's again a missed opportunity with Halo 5. The advertisement for Halo 5, the Hunt the Truth audio drama, was painting this narrative that Chief was going to go rogue. Now,
such a cool idea.
I would have loved to be Chief and to go rogue. Even if you could then make the choice, so to speak, to use lethal or non-lethal force against like humans that come after you. That would have been a fascinating course of action to go down. And then the other thing is that only we know in the books, in the games, have done some really dark stuff. They are actually the true enemy, really, of the Halo universe, because they seed war. They fund both sides of the war. They dish out propaganda to the masses to keep them controlled, and you know, they set people like Ben Giro. They set him up completely. They basically hogtied him and prostrated him.
They did my man dirty.
Yeah. Fantastic audio drama though, and
lovely.
They drive him insane and be like, "Hey, I gave him a pen and paper."
Oh well, good for you. Well done. But it's like, again, it's a missed opportunity, but it had the promise of having the Spartans rise up against the true enemy, Oni, and that would have been. I mean, I would have loved to see a full-blown civil war between Spartans and the rest of humanity in the UNSC against Oni in their own privately funded, you know, super elite, you know, like Locke was basically a, you know, skunkwork Spartan by definition. That would have been fascinating to see, but it was again a missed opportunity. And you know, Spartans are so powerful of a war asset that if they go rogue, you only need to clamp down on that as quick as possible with as much force as possible, because it can very quickly spiral out of control. So yeah, you don't lie and manipulate Spartans. It's just a bad idea.
So is that like the bottom line direction that, I mean, there's no bottom line. There's probably a lot of directions that you would have wanted things to go, but is that like one of the top of the list directions you wanted the story to go?
I honestly think I feel like the narrative, there was a subtle narrative that was being played through Halo 4 about the whole idea of replacing the Chief. You know, that was quite clear. Del Rio, being the asshole that he was completely against the Chief. You know, and I think almost universally, every Halo fan out there who played Halo 4 hated Del Rio because of how much of a dismissive asshole he was to the legend of the Master Chief. So Halo 4 was like already hinting to that narrative change, that narrative shift. Then Halo 5 came about, and at least the advertisement campaign for it was carrying that on. And then obviously, Halo 5 went through its own development hell, and what we got was just not it, and they just abandoned that line altogether. And yet it seemed to me like the most logical thing to do is to keep going with that narrative. I mean, in the books, they sowed the seeds for this as well. I mean, you had in the Kilo 5 trilogy, you had Oni actively trying to genetically alter their crops to kill off to kill off huge amounts of Sangheli. They were actively funding both sides of the Sangheli civil war, so that they keep them preoccupied while Oni goes about, building to ultimate power. So all of the books were lined up for this as well. We could have genuinely had an entire narrative for Halo 5, continued through to Halo Infinite, although I'd imagine it would have been called something different if they'd have actually, continued down that line, where Chief, the Sangheili, the Arbiter, the UNSC at large all go against those loyal or scared of the Office of Naval Intelligence. And we have a huge pitched galactic civil war against, I mean, Oni have their own Prowler Corps, they have their own Skunk Works that they can produce technology, they have their own weapons, their own vehicles, they have their own Spartans. It would have been a hell of a narrative to continue down that line. And yet Halo 5 released and it's gone.
If your campaign is only fun when you play it on easy and you pretend like you're in the intro cutscene, you got a problem. Well, before we end off, I lied. I had one more question for you. This one is probably the most important one. So where exactly on Reach is Reach City?
Oh, good God, yeah. Why did they call it Reach City? They could have called it New Alexandria.
You've never been to Earth City here on Earth?
Good God.
Could you imagine being pretentious enough of a city to be like, we are Earth City?
I mean, the thing is, there's compositions by Marty for Halo 2 called Earth City. I do wonder if whoever the hell thought of calling Reach the main city and Reach City just saw that song and went, that's a good name. We'll make that for Reach.
Marty's decision making can be a little odd sometimes. Maybe it was just Marty.
Yeah.
Slipped him a little note.
Marty just slipped in and just called it Reach City.
It's like New York.
It's like, no, it fucking isn't, Marty.
No one's listening to you, dude. I love him to death, but some of his decisions on the storyline, I'm still back and forth of whether or not I'm okay with Johnson. Although, according to you, he might not be dead.
Even Marty acknowledges that he doesn't think Johnson is dead.
When did he acknowledge that?
He commented on one of my Twitter posts. He commented on my Twitter post saying, for the record, I don't believe he is dead.
Okay.
How's that physically possible?
Oh, if you want to know, you can check out Installation00.
Oh my gosh. Nice little plug right there.
There's a free plug, yeah. No, to be fair, it's founded in the theory is founded in the lore. There's a lot of lore that supports the slim possibility that Johnson could have survived, but I don't know. Watch the video and make of it what you will.
It's pretty darn good. I was listening to it last night because I was like, "There's no way."
Send me abuse if you disagree. It's fine.
It's just in the cave.
As the YouTube comment section way.
Yeah, there actually is another lore post about them reuniting. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be wrapping up the episode for today. We're going to be moving over into our Terminals after show now because we got some more questions for Mr. 00 here, but it's not related to Halo per se, not completely anyway. So if you want to get more of the conversation, because it's so far awesome, you can feel free to head over to patreon.com/JumperScape. And right now, there's still an early bird special you can snag. That's about $2 a month, and it gets you access to the show. That is a deal, my friends. So feel free to hop over there, and we will see you next week when we talk about, what are we talking about? Hold on, let me look real quick. The Halo movies.
Hey,
so,
4 to the dawn.
4 to the dawn. Nightfall.
It's also Nightfall, yeah. I often forget it exists.
The tone change. Wow.
It'll be a fun conversation. We'll see what happens. But thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
The library was produced and published by JumperScape Audio. Funding was provided by our fantastic patrons on Patreon. If you enjoy the show and wish to support JumperScape's future projects or get some sweet benefits, join our Patreon at patreon.com/JumperScape or become part of this truly special community at discord.gg/JumperScape. Thank you for your listenership, and we hope you enjoyed.